Um,
Should I do the intro?
yeah, do the intro.
Welcome to the most must-hear sports podcast in history. Welcome to First Round KO. I am your host, KO, a.k.a. Howard J. Dingers, and I'm joined, as always, by Hanson McLevain.
What's up, dude? So I want to start this off with the. I told you to press the record button because I want to get this actually recorded.
Yeah, let's get going.
AJ Styles maybe going to AEW.
Wait, what?
Did you not hear about this?
I heard that he almost did last year.
Yeah, well, he signed a short deal with WWE for a reason. So there was some stuff that popped up on my Facebook today by a couple different people, and I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, but big names draw my attention, especially with the way WWE is kind of taking a shit right now.
That's fair.
And for me, I think that'd be a great move for AJ Styles because AEW is so much less predictable, and they're moving much more towards not necessarily X-rated but R-rated, and I think that'd be really good for his style. Super aggressive, super flamboyant. That'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, most of the guys, so like the elite came over from New Japan, and that's also they were with AJ. They were all part of the Bullet Club. That's where Kenny, that's where Cody, the Young Bucks, that's where all these guys come from, and even Finn Balor, who's over in NXT as well. He's the NXT champion right now. These guys were all Bullet Club. I think AJ was with maybe he wasn't with the Bucks at one point, but I know he wrestled Kenny. Like there's no doubt in my mind AJ Styles would immediately become one of the biggest guys in AEW because he's one of not a lot of these guys transfer over to WWE very well because WWE has this thing where if they don't build you, or if you're big from something else, like if you're from the movies or if you're from AEW, if you're from or like indies or something like that, then they don't want to push you. It's kind of like this stubbornness. AJ Styles came in. He didn't go to NXT like a lot of these guys do. He debuted in the Royal Rumble match. That's not a thing a lot of people do. Like for a WWE audience to not know you and for them to trust you, they hid him in a closet for the entire show so that no one knew he was going to be there. And then he came out number 3. Like it was huge.
Like, did people know who he was though? Obviously,
yeah.
Like,
because
was it anticipated that he might show up at some point?
No, I especially at that time and I'm back into it now. I read a lot of like Wrestling Observer, so I really kind of know what's going on back behind the scenes. I didn't even know. I knew AJ was a possibility. I didn't think he was going to be at the Rumble,
especially at number 3.
Exactly. And they what happened was on the big Titantron, they said I am phenomenal, and that's when he walked out, and everyone just flipped their fucking lid when he walked out. Like the crowd went crazy. I know all my buddies went crazy. So like AJ, he obviously, I think just the fact that he works so well in WWE, I think it would work really well for him to go to AEW for sure. I don't know if it's going to happen because the only thing, it seems that I know that he talked to AEW last year and he used that in his negotiations with WWE to get more money last year. From what I heard last year, it was a longer term, as in like 3-4 years. And apparently a quote directly from AJ was, "This is my last wrestling contract," because he is 40 years old right now.
Okay.
So there is a chance.
That doesn't seem to stop a lot of these guys.
No. But like, you know, he's getting older. He's done basically everything he wants to, but maybe AEW getting hot like this, maybe he does want to go over there and at least have a few dream matches with those guys. Cause he's not having dream matches in WWE right now. Like Shinsuke Nakamura should have been a fucking phenomenal 5-star match at WrestleMania, and it sucked. So like he's not having those matches in WWE. Maybe he wants to go have another year in AEW. I could see it happening. I really do.
Maybe he does one of those things where he sits out for a year or two also, and then he comes back.
Yeah, so he really could, because he's got like 4 kids, I think he had, and so I don't know.
Especially with the way these wrestlers, like that's a very common thing in wrestling. I feel like for guys to go away and come back, and it happens multiple times throughout their career.
And a big thing too, like Nakamura, like I mentioned too, and AJ, these guys, they're in especially in New Japan, they wrestle a lot, and they wrestle a very aggressive type. It's hard on their body, so I wasn't surprised late into their careers that they went to WWE, where it's a softer style, but they did have to work house shows and stuff. Now, especially in this time, and I don't think even going forward after this pandemic, whenever that ends, I still don't think they're going to be doing many house shows because they were actually losing money on those. I think it could still be an easy schedule where that's why Nakamura went there to have an easier schedule. That's why AJ Styles. But then you look at AEW, who doesn't do house shows either. They only run once a week. They even their Tuesday show, they film on Wednesdays to go that next week. So like that's still an easy schedule. Maybe AJ's looking at that. I would assume everyone at WWE is looking at that like, man, I fucking love to be
like
over.
Their schedules are a lot easier. They don't treat them like independent contractors like WWE does either, if I'm correct, right?
Exactly. That's
like
exactly
the
right.
big one. They're like full medical insurance, like they're on legitimate like a professional athlete should be.
And just to top this off, the match that immediately went into my head, I mean, there's AJ and Kenny, there's AJ and Hangman, there's AJ and Jungle Boy. AJ and MJF would be, oh my God, fucking phenomenal. No pun intended. Like, it would just be incredible. I mean, I would love to see it as a wrestling fan. I miss watching AJ Styles because I don't watch WWE anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I think WWE's got to be really careful because even just AJ Styles, this storyline coming up again of him maybe even like thinking about finishing his career over there, that should really concern WWE because they're going to start losing all these younger guys to AEW, and all the up-and-comers are going to want to go over there because of the medical benefits and that actually being a good employee. And then what's going to end up happening with WWE, it's going to end up like Shady Oaks Retirement Home, like wrestling organization.
Yeah.
And they're going to be coming in their walkers and yeah.
Exactly.
Jumping off cages that are only like 3 feet high instead of 60.
Oh man. Yeah. That's exciting. All right, before we get into football, we're obviously going to preview what's coming up this week in the NFL. We're going to briefly go over every game. We're going to talk about Thursday night because I definitely want to talk about Thursday night. Let's talk quickly about the NBA. We'll start it off, Giannis back-to-back, which it should have never been in doubt. I was ranting on this podcast for so long about, every month it was, it's Giannis and Doncic. It's Giannis and LeBron. It's Giannis and James Harden. It's Giannis and Westbrook.
But what's the one name that stays consistent? You know,
it was Giannis all year. Giannis didn't have a hot month. Giannis doesn't have a bunch of all-stars on his team. He has one. And even that all-star is not.
He's only an all-star because they're the number one team in the conference.
He's a number 2 guy. And honestly, he's probably a number 3 guy.
He's a number 3 guy, yeah.
Exactly. And Giannis has made him a number 2 guy on this team.
2.5. And
right.
And that's what happens. That's why we're ending where we're ending.
Now, you mentioned you watched the ESPN interview with Giannis, so let's talk about it.
It was the TNT interview, like after they gave him a award. He's in Athens, and they did the Skype thing.
Which, by the way, I just need to mention, whoever's watching on YouTube saw me just freak out. I knew that they were in Athens because the other day while I'm at work, all of a sudden my boss, who's a big basketball fan, we talk about it all the time, he walks up to me, he goes, "Dude, did you see him?" I said, "No, what? And he goes, "Dude, Thanasis was just in here." I was like, Justin, dude, come on. He said, "Thanasis was just in here. You didn't come and get me immediately." But yeah, apparently Thanasis was like trying to pick up some big shit because he was saying that they were going back to Athens. Whoever was helping him was like, "Oh, you having a party?" He's like, "No, I'm flying back to Athens." So
yeah,
man, I'm so mad that
their own plane to Athens.
That's crazy, but that gives me hope that in this offseason I'm going to see a few people. So I'm going to keep everyone updated. Hopefully I'll get some pictures. Maybe if I see them out in the parking lot, I may even try to get like a little shout out, like a little, "Hey, you're listening to First Round KO" type of thing.
Oh wait, that would be so sick.
That's what I would want that more than a picture with them. Honestly, that'd be so sick.
They probably do it too. They're like that. Mm-hmm. They're chill. They're really cool.
Exactly. Plus, it's social distancing. I just got to film them.
Yeah. So the interview that.
Yes.
Now, I'm probably the only one that will dissect this out of anybody, or at least that's a Bucks fan.
ESPN
because ESPN will. Up until that interview, I was pretty confident that Giannis is coming back and signing the Supermax.
I feel like we had the same exact conversation last week.
Except it's going to be different now because I don't think he's going to.
I also went back last week because you said he unfollowed the Bucks.
He unfollowed his Bucks teammates.
I went in and it said he was only following 6 people, but then I went in and he was following way more than that. Maybe maybe it wasn't refreshed or I don't know, but he was still following all the Bucks when I checked it.
No, he only had like 6 followers. So, the only thing I'm worried about is I saw a report today. I don't know the validity of the report.
All right, now it has refreshed. Now it's just his brothers, his wife, and Kobe.
Girlfriend, they're not married yet.
Sorry, yeah.
Almost. They're getting there. I think that's something they're planning on doing right now. I think that was part of the reason they wanted to go back to Athens.
Right. Oh, his mom. That's the other one.
Yeah. So the thing I'm concerned about is Giannis. So I picking up like nonverbal cues is something that is really easy to pick up on, specifically with players that aren't. How do I describe? They don't put on a front normally. Giannis is a no bullshit type of player, and he has a no bullshit attitude. So if he's not saying something, you can normally kind of tell if it's bugging him or something's going wrong.
Yeah.
And I definitely noticed when Ernie was asking him about like how he felt about the roster, kind of like the last question kind of revolved like what your future in Milwaukee, and the way he responded was not great. It he's like, I'm just trying to spend time with my family in Athens right now, and we get through the summer. And I understand that like, but it was the tone of the voice in which he said it, and maybe he's just tired of answering that question for the 100th time. But it seemed a little concerning. But so back to this report that I was talking about that came out today that I was kind of questioning. A reporter from the bubble who recently went in, which means that he's a lower tier reporter because they just are letting all the reporters in for the most part.
Yeah.
Said that allegedly CP3 was on the list of players that Giannis wants. Like,
I already saw the report that the Bucks aren't looking at him.
yeah, and I don't believe that either because I don't think Giannis wants CP3 on their roster for one season. Like, if Giannis wants a long-term roster, why do you want an aging point guard?
Yeah, and they already signed Bledsoe to that deal. Like,
I think they're going to trade him because
Bledsoe?
there's a couple. He's a really good piece to trade right now because he's rocking a $10 million a year deal, which is just above a mid-level exception. And that's a low enough price margin where you could actually trade him and a couple picks, and you could get a high round draft pick player from the last couple of years. So if there's a possibility to pick up a guy like that, that's definitely going to be a more open look.
If I'm being honest, I'm a Wisconsin sports fan. Of course, I'm scared that he's going to leave. I thought Rodgers was going to leave a couple of years ago. I had a sigh of relief when Yelich signed that long-term deal. I still think he's going to get the Supermax. I'm still confident he's going to stay, but there is that creeping doubt just because. And
well, it's no doubt he's getting the contract. It's going to be offered. It's whether he's taking it or not because ownership's come out and already taken fines for saying they're giving it to him. But like, you have to be the stupidest person in the world to not give him that contract.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's worth a third of your salary space.
I still don't see it. And like I said, that doubt is still in my head, but I don't know. I can't read too much into things because I don't feel like Giannis is that kind of guy who's going to, like I said last week, I don't think he's going to go out and leave breadcrumbs. Like the fact that he unfollowed everyone, like he's not even following he's
LeBron. Been doing that though the last couple seasons though. He's never followed LeBron. He's only ever followed his teammates.
Like I said, right now he's following his brothers, his mom, his girlfriend, and Kobe. That's who he's following right now. And I don't know. I don't read too much into that. I really don't. I mean, if you really want to look at it, Allen Robinson for the Chicago Bears went and unfollowed all of the Bears and took everything out of his profile on the Bears and said, and he even had like some sort of eye emoji saying that he should get more money or something like that. And now all of a sudden this week he's like, let's forget about last week. We'll just keep playing. I don't know. I'm not reading too much into that.
Well, like I said, this is something Giannis does do every offseason. He does unfollow, because he wants to focus. And the reason he follows those guys during the season is because it's part of the thing. Yeah. So I just like how ESPN made a big deal about it. And it's like, this is a common thing, and nobody mentions he does it every offseason.
Exactly.
So I worry about his tone of voice. That's about all.
As far as the conference finals are going, I mean, unsurprisingly, the Heat are up 2-0 on the Celtics.
We say unsurprisingly. The rest of the basketball world might disagree slightly
I
because
mean, I think we would have swept the Celtics.
yeah,
I think
oh
we would have.
yeah.
And
Jason Tatum is the only player on that roster that's ready for prime time right now.
and I would argue Jaylen Brown to a lesser extent. Obviously, I don't think he's not to that level, but I think
Jaylen
he's
Brown is supposed to be the number 3 on that team, and he has to play as the number 2 because Kemba Walker isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing.
yeah. So like the fact that the Heat are playing like they are right now, and it doesn't surprise me, and I'm kind of shocked that it surprises other people because, I mean, and maybe that's just because I'm a Bucks fan and they just beat us, but like they look extremely impressive.
I mean, they've been beating us all season. They've been beating us at our own game. Hustle, drive, and kick for a 3.
And then on the other side, I mean, the series is literally just starting tonight, but
and they
Lakers
just dropped like almost 40 points apiece in the first quarter too.
Yeah, and the Lakers are up 14 points right now, going into halfway through the second quarter. I expect the Lakers to win this at five games. I think.
I'm gonna disagree and say 7 to the Nuggets.
Whew, listen.
Have you been watching the Nuggets? They've come back from a 3-1 deficit twice in the same playoffs, and that's never been done before.
I wouldn't mind it. That's going to take a toll on them, and maybe this is the series that happens. It could happen they are a young team, and I know Jamal Murray's
one player that's over the age of 30, and it's Paul Millsap, who is 30. So
I'm not disagreeing with it. I said it as soon as the Bucks got eliminated. I'm all in on whoever wins the West. I want the Lakers to win. I'm a LeBron fan. I like AD. I think it would be poetic this year specifically that the Lakers get a title. But I've been all in on the Nuggets for the last 2 seasons because they've quietly been one of the best teams in the league. Like they were second. They almost got the first seed over the Warriors a year or two ago, I think it was. And they've been balling out, and now Jamal Murray's finally balling out the level he should have been, and now even Michael Porter Jr. is being the guy that they drafted him to be, and Jokic obviously. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they win. I still think I don't know. I just really like the Lakers in this series, but I could see it going deep. But I still, even in 7, just because they've already gone 2 7-game series. I think the Lakers would edge him out a little bit.
You know, I never count out Mike Malone in any team he puts on that floor. The way I kind of compare that team is to like a country high school team. Because I don't know if you've ever heard Mike Malone talk, but he sounds like he's coaching a high school team that is made up of kids that came straight from a cornfield. So I am very impressed with first off, the roster they've put together for Denver, with Michael Porter Jr. being an absolute amazing player. That's what taking your time with a player turns into, is Michael Porter Jr. Back injuries are something you don't mess with. That's what happens when you develop properly. Taking not even a risk. Bol dropped so far into the draft, and they're like, he's still here. Why is he still here? And they took him. So now you've got arguably 2 of the top 10 players out of the draft from last year. Everything is going right in Denver right now. They're young. They've got guys under contract. Money's not even an issue right now. Michael Porter Jr. is the face of their franchise with their amazing point guards, right? And yeah, Denver is so good looking right now for a basketball team in the NBA in modern basketball.
And going forward.
I can't see. I feel like LeBron. See, I was watching the pregame show for the game that's on the Lakers Nuggets game 1 right now, and they were talking about who has more of an advantage, the young Nuggets playing consistently or the old Lakers resting for 5 days. Because the Nuggets, those guys want to play. Like, if they're not in motion, they're not going to stay in rhythm. But they're young, so they can handle playing. But you don't want to play against a rested LeBron because he's the best player or one of the best players of all time.
And honestly, if that's the way it's going to keep going too, even if this is a shorter series and they win in like 5-6 games, they're gonna, like, the East is going to be waiting for him because they're already 2 games in. Like they're going to play through the finals at this point. Like Yeah, like I said, I like whoever comes out of the West to win. And the Heat are going to give whoever a good shot, but I really like
Here's what
whoever
I'm
comes
gonna
out of the
tell you:
West.
the Denver-Miami final is gonna look very interesting.
That's going to be so 2020. Are you kidding me? Oh
But
my
you know
God.
what? Besides the Bucks, and here's what I'm gonna say this now because I need to get off my chest. I really don't think the Bucks deserve to make it to the finals this year.
Not
The
this
way
year,
they
no.
finished out the regular season before the hiatus, the way they finished out in the bubble was garbage. I know those games didn't mean anything for them, but they looked like they really didn't care. And then they came into the playoffs flat-footed because they didn't care in the bubble games, in the seeding games.
Yep.
So for that reason, and just for the fact that Jimmy Butler's a Marquette guy with Jay Crowder, maybe that Tyler Hero's from Wisconsin, but fuck him. Like, I want to see Miami win because it makes the conference look good. And it shows why we have a losing record against the Miami Heat. Because they literally are the one team in the NBA that can beat us consistently. They're the only team. It revolves around Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. All right. Anything else before we move to football?
No, just college basketball though. That's coming. We got that
College
confirmed.
football too.
Yeah, college football is coming.
Crazy.
College football will probably be okay. Let's see how long college basketball lasts. That one might be a little bit more interesting.
Do you know how they're doing college basketball?
I don't know if Division III is going. I think it's only D1.
No, I meant like they're
But-
I don't think they're gonna do a bubble. That's a fuck ton of people. But like,
so I think they're just kind of doing what football's doing, where they're just gonna try to keep the guys away from everybody else.
the MLB is doing. Honestly, whatever whatever football has going with those fucking bracelets, those things are so nice with the and tracking like who you're next to, and if someone contracts it when you're within 6 feet of them, like holy fuck, that we need to get more of that.
Well, they're like the NFL ones.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get those at some of the bigger colleges right now, but it's really hard to.
I can imagine.
Like, and you can't like necessarily bubble up. Like a college roster is really hard to control on a college campus. It's hard to control college kids in general.
That's what I'm saying. Those especially for college, I think those bracelets would be super nice if they can get their hands on them. And NCAA, we know that you have the fucking money for it.
I was about to say, all this money you've been making on advertising money on your amateur athletes in the NCAA tournament for the last 50 years, I think you have the pocket change.
How about you use some of that pocket change to protect those players right now? I think
seriously. And if anytime you were going to pretend like you gave a shit about the NCAA players, the guys and girls that make up your in total league, like, show a little respect for them. But on the plus side for this though, there are new coronavirus tests that are instant, that are like super inexpensive, like under like cents. They're like worth cents now. Good. So rapid testing, cheap testing is starting to ramp up more. And it sounds like that's the type of thing we're going to be doing until we get our vaccine, which sounds like late Q2 of next year. So
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so we'll see how they handle basketball. I would be a huge fan of them bubbling off their athletic programs in a dorm
if they can,
or in a building. Well, do you want to be an athlete? Like that's something that's a stipulation. And you have to agree to that if you want to be a student athlete. That's something that they can force. So
we'll see. I think we'll probably get into that as those seasons kick off. I'm pretty excited.
There's going to be more information coming out about standards for safety, and we'll dig into that when we get it.
Yeah. Let's talk about football. Let's talk about Thursday night. Let's talk about the Browns beating the Bengals 35-30. I mean, the Browns offense looked like what we thought they were going to be for the last few seasons, honestly. But against the very suspect defense in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But Joe Burrow, man, I know he's 0-2, but damn, he looks good.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I've never seen an 0-2 quarterback look so good.
Honestly,
especially a rookie. Like,
I genuinely, in one of my other podcasts that I was listening to, one of the guys said, like, they're going to win I think Cincinnati's going to win a Super Bowl with him. Within the next, I mean, I'll give it like an 8-year window, and I don't think that's too much of a hot take. Like, I
No,
think
you could probably I'd make it a smaller window even because they at this point they've got really good pieces. They just have to make some upgrades on their line and on defense, and then
exactly. Yeah, because I mean, Mixon and Bernard are good. It's a good running back combo. I don't know how long they're going to keep that going, but wide receiver wise, they could maybe upgrade another, get a solid number 2, because I don't think Tyler Boyd is necessarily that guy. Unfortunately, they lost their tight end to, I don't know. I haven't heard any reports, but what I'm assuming is a very long injury. It looked like it was a non-contact. It looked like his leg was shaking. I saw the replay. It gave me
yeah,
shivers.
I heard one of it was described as I hope it's one of those injuries he can come back from.
It was Uzama. Yeah.
Yeah.
They showed the replay when he made the cut, and you can just see his whole leg just like tense up and shake. I was like, oh no. Oh, it was bad. And then he got carted off. But Joe Burrow, we still saw him go to his backup tight end, and I think like Drew Sample, I think was his name. He went to him a lot. I think 37 passes was a rookie record. 37 completions was a rookie record. 61 attempts. He was too short of the rookie record for attempts.
Threw so much,
and they had to because they were down.
Yeah.
But 3 touchdowns. I don't think he had an interception, which that is also a rookie record. That's the most. That's close to like an actual record with complete or attempts without a pick, and that's his second game in the NFL. Like,
yeah. Well, we were kind of now. Remember, I want to keep this in perspective because this is kind of what we were expecting to a certain extent. Because when you get an older quarterback like he is, it's been through multiple strong systems with really good coaching and playing with really good talent, you would hope that he would adjust a lot quicker than most guys.
Yes.
And so this, to me, isn't super shocking. I am very impressed with the 315 yards he had.
316.
316 on 0 interceptions. Like, that's wild. 3 touchdowns. And he had 7 rushes for like 19 yards. He was the second leading rusher on his team. If he continues to do that and can stay healthy, man, dude, we're going to be looking at some really interesting Ohio rivalry games. I'll be telling you that.
Yeah.
Depending on what the Browns end up doing here in the next couple of weeks with Odell.
It was genuinely fun to watch. Like when you say Bengals-Browns Thursday night, you're like, oh, okay, that's going to be a low rating game. But it was a really fun game to watch. I had a lot of fun. And, Baker and this offense, this team looked like what a good Vikings offense looked like last year. And obviously with Kevin Stefanski coming over to be their head coach, that's kind of what they were expecting. And this is what Stefanski likes to do. He likes to have that bell cow running back. And he basically has 2 of them with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. But he likes to get that deep ball, and he likes to get that his number 1 receiver, who was Stephon, now is Odell Beckham Jr. He likes to get them their deep balls. He likes to get that lead, and then he likes to just pound it down your throat when they have the lead. And Nick Chubb, they had that one drive where Nick Chubb just had the ball the entire time. I think Kareem Hunt had a couple runs, and then Chubb just pounded it into the end zone. They literally didn't throw it once. I mean, holy crap. I still wasn't wholly impressed with Baker Mayfield. I genuinely think this performance only came because of this weak Cincinnati defense, but there's signs of life for this Browns offense and honestly for the rest of the team, but they still gave up 30 points to this Bengals offense. Like and that's the contrast. I like the Bengals offense, but it's still a rookie quarterback with only really 1 solidified wide receiver and a tight end who went down, a weak offensive line. Like they should have been a little more dominant, in my opinion, on defense. So I am still worried about this Cleveland. They're not where they should be.
All right. So before I give you my Baker Mayfield synopsis of his performance, where do you think his ceiling is? Because honestly, I can't really see him getting much better. I know he's still pretty fresh into the league, only a couple of years in, but like the way he's kind of like plateaued almost.
Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is his ceiling. And I don't think we've necessarily seen the best out of Derek Carr yet either. I think he's got an opportunity to have one of the best seasons of his career this year with his offensive weapons. But what we've seen out of Derek Carr is he can be a very competent quarterback, and he can put up numbers, but he's never that kind of guy like an Aaron Rodgers or a Drew Brees who can go out there and win you games. I don't think Baker's going to be that guy. I think he's a step above Kirk Cousins. Maybe a Matthew Stafford, actually. I think maybe Matthew Stafford would be a good comparison to Baker Mayfield, in my opinion.
Okay.
Like, he's going to be a great guy, and he's going to get your offense a lot of points. But I just don't think he can go out there and win you games week in, week out.
So I think the biggest thing for me with Baker going forward is something he did well last night, and that was decision-making on the read option. And if he can continue to do that, I mean, first off, your coach has to have a lot of trust in you. Your offensive coordinator has to have a lot of trust in you to be doing stuff like that. And the way that Baker scrambled out of the pocket week 1 and was getting hit and was kind of being reckless, like he was trying to be Lamar, that really concerned me coming into week 2. But then I realized who they were playing. And then, like, the defense just isn't as strong as most other NFL teams are for the Bengals. So it didn't surprise me at all, actually, to see Baker get out of the pocket, move around freely. Didn't really feel a lot of pressure, it seemed like, on those read options. And it looked like he could have gone either way, and it would have been kind of unpressured. So I think that kind of speaks volumes to the Bengals because they made Baker Mayfield look good. Which
here's a stat for the Bengals defense. Last year, the top 3 defensive players, as in the bottom 3, I guess you would say, as far as missed tackles, all 3 players were Cincinnati Bengals on that defense last year, and only one of them returned. They got rid of 2 of them, but that one of them, I believe, is still one of their middle linebackers. They have not had a good defense for a long time now. And I think they were also missing Geno Atkins, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to help in the run defense once he comes back, and honestly pressuring the quarterback. Like, Geno Atkins is like top 10, top 5 D tackles right now. So it's going to help when he comes back. Yeah, obviously the Bengals have stuff to fix. I don't think I think I had them slotted in to maybe get in on a wild card. I doubt that's going to happen this year. But I really, again, Joe Burrow, if he progresses the way he did from week 1 to week 2, holy shit, he's going to be an MVP by week 17.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he ends up doing.
Yeah, me too. I'm very, very excited. All right, let's talk about these games on Sunday. I'm gonna literally read off this game. I'm gonna see what you have to say about this, and then we're gonna jump to me, and we're literally just gonna rattle through these games.
Sounds good.
Jaguars versus Titans. This is in Tennessee. Both teams coming off a win. Tennessee's favored at home, 7.5. I think that's a big line. Over-under's 44. Yeah, how do you see this game playing out?
It all depends on how Jacksonville can contain Derrick Henry. If they can contain Derrick Henry, they're going to win the game. But
here's a stat for that. Last year, there were 3 drives in the NFL that went 99 yards for a touchdown. 3 drives. One of those was a run by Derrick Henry against the Jaguars.
So, like I said, not even knowing that stat.
Yeah, and we lost a lot of defensive players last year. From last year to this year too.
And I kept that in the back of my brain from you talking about that in the previous episodes. I'm like, he said their defense sucks, and I know Derrick Henry is a dude that you look at him and you like whimper. Like he's horrifying. He's massive. He's got like Eric Thames' arms. But, like, he's got, like, the thighs of a lineman, but the speed of Usain Bolt. Like, I don't understand how it works.
It's scary that they have him and A.J. Brown on their team. It's incredibly scary. I hate it. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, the Jaguars are going to have to do a lot on offense. Like, Minshew's going to have another damn near perfect game. And even then, like, they're going to have to keep up with Derrick Henry, but the Titans are going to control the clock, and that's what they're going for. We know that for a fact. I still can't believe the Jaguars pulled off that win last year. I know a lot of their rookies stepped up. I know a lot of their young guys stepped up. Miles Jack is still in that defense, but Miles Jack is not going to be able to tackle Derrick Henry on every play by himself. And I don't know who else is going to. These safeties are young, and they may be used to tackling small running backs at college. And who was it? Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines last week. This is a different ballgame.
They weren't tackling Jonathan Taylor. either.
Exactly.
I mean,
Once
that
Marlon
boy
Mack went down,
he had a really good game though.
yeah, I fully expect the Titans to run away with this.
Yeah, as long as Tannehill makes good decisions and doesn't throw away easy passes, it should be a pretty much a walk in the park.
Which is basically the quarterback that Tannehill is right now.
Yeah, that's why they have him.
Exactly. All right, Detroit coming off of their loss to the Bears, going to Green Bay. Oh my God, how is this?
Okay?
How is Tennessee favored by more than?
So here's why I'm okay with Tennessee being favored by more in their game, because the Packers always like to take a shit in games against divisional rivals that they should beat.
I would word that as these divisional games are always competitive. Like the other team always seems to step up.
Yeah,
It's
I think
not
because they see each other so often.
Yeah, and I think the Lions specifically, they always play us extremely well. No matter if it's that 0-16 year or if it was last year, they play us well. Even last year, like they played us extremely well. Even with David Blau at quarterback, like these guys, we know each other too well. Like, and so I do, yeah, I get that point.
Yeah, so I mean, the only way Detroit wins this game is if they can protect Matt Stafford and if he can manage the game well. And it's going to be the combination of, are his targets going to be open so they can get the run game going? Or can they get the run game going and hope that will get his targets open? But the big key here is they have to get one of those started, and neither of those are really major strong suits for him right now. I mean, they've got an arm, but you got to have hands to catch it. So I understand that the Packers have some youth in the backfield. It doesn't concern me. I think they're going to be fine. I think the Packers win by at least two touchdowns.
Yes, at least. I was just looking. Kenny Galladay for the Lions is out again, and that's their number one receiver.
Yeah, no hands.
Last week, they protected Stafford pretty well against this or against the Chicago Bears defensive line, but the Chicago Bears lost Leonard Floyd. The Packers, did we lose Kenny Clark last week? Is he out? I'm going to have to look at that. But still, we still have, I mean, if you look at it, we still have Rashawn Gary, who we drafted and has come into his own at the end of last season and last week, and Zadarius Smith, and Preston Smith. Like, we still have those outside guys. We still have Dean Lowry, who's probably going to play in the middle. We still have our offensive line. And the addition of Christian Kirksey in the middle, I thought worked very well last week. We held Dalvin Cook to 50 yards.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of Adrian.
Because Adrian Peterson likes to play well against the Packers. But
what Adrian Peterson, like, this is also only the second game for Adrian in Detroit. I'm not scared of this game. I think that, I think it probably will still be a close game, but I like at least 2 touchdowns. I would say at least 14 points we win this game by, because I just think the Packers look great. The Aaron Rodgers looks like MVP Aaron Rodgers, which is amazing to see. And I can't wait to see what he does against this Detroit team who, like, who do they have? They traded away Darius Slay. I think their rookie cornerback, who I think they drafted in the first round, Jeff Okudah, I believe, from Ohio State. He didn't play last week, and I believe he's going to be healthy this week. But a debuting rookie cornerback against Aaron Rodgers, I'll take that any day of the week.
It would be a really good show out for him, though, if he plays well. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But who is he going to be guarding? The second best receiver in the exactly.
So injury report for the Packers: St. Brown and Ramsey are the only two that are out. Turner, Green, and Adams are all questionable. Defensive tackle Montrevious Adams.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
not Devontae.
I'm pretty sure 6 hours ago, Packers injury report out. Kenny Clark.
No, please no.
From Mike Clemens on Twitter.
That would suck.
It's his groin. And honestly, I literally 3 weeks ago while I was at work, pulled my groin and I missed 2 days of work. It is not a fun injury.
He is out. So is Lane Taylor. Lane Taylor's out for the season.
He's out for the season. It looks like Billy Turner is questionable on the offensive line as well. Patrick Lucas is questionable. I see who was the other? Sorry. Yeah, no, that's kind of it. Montravius Adams is questionable. It says here too. We'll see. I don't know. I still feel honestly, our offensive line didn't even allow anyone near Rodgers last week, so I feel all right with that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those Chicago Bears hosting the New York Giants, who put up a decent fight in the first quarter against Pittsburgh on Monday, but didn't really. I guess we didn't talk about them on that. Oh no, we did talk about that game. What was the game that we didn't get to talk about? Oh yeah, Tennessee and Denver.
Yeah.
Denver, where Denver punted on over half of their possessions.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, I don't.
And that's all we needed to talk about that game.
We don't need to mention too much from that. But as far as the Giants coming into this game, is Saquon Barkley going to have more than 6 yards on the ground? And
yeah.
is Mitch Trubisky going to look like he did in the fourth quarter, or are we going to get him in the third? Yeah.
So I'm looking. ESPN is favoring them 65-34, and that kind of like sickens me a little bit because
And I'll give you the over under is 42, and the inferred point total is about 37 for Chicago. Well, I get what would that be? So I'm terrible at this math. I wish I actually gave me these stats. Maybe I'll get it to you in a sec. Go ahead.
I just Mitch Trubisky's still my favorite Packers quarterback, and that's not going to change.
Aside
Dude's
from
got one. Remember, I say dude's got one good quarter in 2 years, and now that everyone's like, "Oh, Mitch Trubisky," and
to be fair, Mitch plays a good quarter most weeks. It's just usually not the fourth quarter.
Four of them.
Yeah,
there's four of them, and even if you played 3 or 2 of them well, like that's better than one every other week, and that's about where he's at. And if the Bears have Nick Foles on that roster. Now Foles is gonna have to sit another 3 weeks because Trubisky threw 3 passes well, and I feel bad for him because I don't know if that was originally the plan. I feel like the plan was to go with Foles at one point, and then somebody in training camp was like, no, Trubisky, and they just kind of ran with it. So I think that's what's going on because it sounded like there was a fight at one point for who was going to get that spot.
Yeah, I'm looking ahead at the rest of the games that we have here, and I almost called this my almost upset of the week, but there's one that I think is a little stronger. I
wouldn't call it an upset if the Giants won.
Not necessarily, only because it's at home and they're favored by a decent amount. But I do think the Giants will probably pull this out. They looked, like I said, against Pittsburgh's defense, they looked pretty good in the first quarter. I think they ended up only putting up 13 points. But Saquon wasn't going. Again, I think Pittsburgh's defense might be the best in the league right now. So I'm not looking too much at that game. And what Chicago's defense wasn't able to do against Detroit last week is very telling. So I'm looking at the Giants to take this one. It's going to be a close game, but the difference is I don't see Trubisky having the fourth quarter that he had last week.
Yeah, Trubisky is going to come back to earth, and it happens. Like you get excited, you feel like he's been so bad for so long, and he plays well, and then I understand Chicago. You haven't had good sports in a while. You had that World Series that was nice, but like
4 years ago now, was it?
Yeah, and it was great because I got to experience it because I was going to school in Illinois. It was a great time to be alive.
Oh boy. All right, let's move on to the game that I am actually calling my almost upset of the week. The Falcons and the Cowboys. The Falcons put up a lot of offensive yards last week against the Seahawks defense. And they're coming in. The Cowboys couldn't even contain Jared Goff, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, and who's their running back? Fucking something Brown. I like the Falcons on this game a lot.
So how much is Dallas favored by?
4 points. It's a 53.5 point over under. Ooh.
I like the Falcons too. And for the sake of Mike McCarthy, just they didn't look fantastic last week, and the way like we're kind of talking. It looks like kind of like that old Packers offense didn't really work well for them, at least not week one. So maybe they've adjusted. Maybe they've changed some things. Probably not. It's Mike McCarthy. He hasn't changed anything. But I love Todd Gurley. I think Todd Gurley
in this offense specifically,
yeah, and he just. I'm so happy he's not a Ram anymore. Like he was just so underutilized, and it hurt. Because as a sports fan, as a sports enthusiast, you hate to see freaks of nature like that get contained.
Well, and here's the thing about that. So the Rams felt like in the last 2 years, and I think they were right to feel like this. They were saving Todd Gurley and his legs for the postseason. And like that, and after being in the Super Bowl, I can't really blame them for that.
Yeah.
Whereas the Falcons only signed him for a season, and they're in a very tough division. So I think the Falcons are out here saying, look, dude, I don't really care what your legs look like late in the season. You need to perform for the whole season, and you need to show us that you can, so that maybe we re-sign you, or so that you can make more money somewhere else. And so the Falcons are using him right away. And I absolutely love Hayden Hurst, their freaking receiving core. They had 300-yard receivers last week. I don't see the Cowboys are already like snake bitten on that defense. They already lost 2 of their guys, and and again, this is a coach playing for his job in Dan Quinn. I really like the Falcons to win here. I really do.
Yeah. And you bring up the whole point about saving Todd Gurley for the postseason, what they're doing in LA. I didn't even realize he's 6'1". He's like I knew he was tall, but he's really tall for a running back.
Yeah.
And 6'1", I'm 6'3", and getting my legs taken out from under me was like a really easy thing in basketball. Yep. So I can only imagine football and the whole knee situation. So yeah, and come postseason time, like you said, they might even just bring somebody else in, like, or they might have somebody else on the roster that's fresh. Like, he's not being babied as much. He's not being treated as like the golden calf like he was out in LA. Or at least the playoff golden calf.
And on the other side of the ball, I mean, I know the Falcons gave up a lot to the Seahawks, but that was Russell Wilson having an absolutely fucking fantastic day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because of the game plan for the Seahawks, but I don't like Chris Carson didn't do much, but I think that was the game plan. I'm not going to look too much of that. I think Zeke's going to have a good day. It's all about Dak, and it's all about what he can do. It's how he can answer to this explosive offense. And if I look, they have Brian Hill and Ito Smith behind Todd Gurley, and they've been high on them, on both of those 2 young guys.
I've heard Ito Smith's name before.
Ito Smith is one of those speed backs. He's kind of like a Darren Sproles type of guy. And they've had hopes for Brian Hill over the past few seasons. I think that was one of the big reasons they let Devontae Freeman walk. So I think you're completely right in that. It's just hard for me to sit here and say that the Cowboys offense, which did not look good, granted against the Rams, I don't know if they're going to have – I don't know if the Falcons' D line is going to make as much noise that Aaron Donald himself made. But yeah,
we're forgetting a really big thing though. Remember, Matt Ryan is still throwing the ball to Julio Jones. So, I mean, he had 450 yards last week, which is just stupid. And
well, that's the thing with a high over under like this and a high scoring offenses. I think it's going to come down to who can score in the fourth quarter, and throwing the ball like that at a high volume. I'm putting my money on Matt Ryan more than Dak Prescott, like any day of the week.
And just purely based on experience too.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if their skill level was the exact same, I still pick Matt Ryan every time. So
can't wait for the Cowboys to be 0-2. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and then everyone's like, "Oh no, why isn't it working?" It's like, "Oh, Mike McCarthy." Like, does he make it through the season? Honestly, do you think he can make it through the season?
Dude, how many seasons did Jason Garrett make it through?
But if they have a losing record in 5-6 weeks, if they've only won 2 games, if they only won 2 games in 6 weeks, there's going to be some issues.
Mike McCarthy will make it through the season. I can't guarantee over the offseason that Jerry Jones doesn't get bored, but I will guarantee that he will not fire him midseason because in
So
that
if they
division,
get to 2-8, you think they keep him?
here's the thing, who is competing in that division with them? Are the Eagles going to compete and win that division? Are the Giants? Are the Washington football team? Like, I still think the Cowboys squeak in and win 8-8, 7-9, like we've seen them do before. I still think they purely because of the division that they're in. I don't know. I don't see him going anywhere
We
this
have to
season.
remember that the Giants are a team that are very capable of taking a game, as we saw last week. So is Washington, I guess. So,
True.
Dwayne Haskins is capable of being a monster. So, what I'm worried about, if I'm a fan of the Cowboys right now, is Mike McCarthy getting complacent and not changing things, because that has been his biggest criticism, is he doesn't change things. And that's something that you have a young, smart team. You have a smart quarterback in Dak Prescott and a smart running back in Ezekiel Elliott you're not going to be using enough.
That offensive line is not as good as we've come accustomed to either because of the loss to Travis Frederick. They do have Tyler Frick, another Wisconsin center that they're waiting to put in, Biznasty or something like that. I always struggle with the name, but they drafted him specifically to kind of be the new Travis Frederick, who also came from Wisconsin. So I do see that they're waiting to put him in, but that offensive line is definitely not what it used to be.
Yeah, and because of that, I think we're going to see Zeke maybe line up a little bit more like an inside slot, because if you get Dak out in the backfield on his own, he has some space to maneuver and he has time to throw the ball instead of coming under center and then having guys just plowing through his O-line.
But so, if you put Zeke in the backfield, that's going to load more people in the box and give more room for Dak to throw the ball. There's going to be more guys it's going to be more front 8 than back 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. Well, let's see what Mike McCarthy does, because at this rate, it's going to either be the exact same thing as last week, or it's going to be some bullshit that doesn't make any sense.
I love that Mike McCarthy has become the Cowboys' headache and not ours. It's great. It's the best. It's the best. Let's talk about the 0-1 Vikings versus the 0-1 Colts. The Colts are actually favored at home here to bounce back after they lost to the Jaguars. This is an interesting game.
Oh my God. Stop it. There we go. Ads on the ESPN app, man. I'm telling you.
Thankfully, mine stayed muted from last week. Man, I don't know about this game, because maybe Phillip Rivers has a bounce back week and maybe Jonathan Taylor is going to be that bell cow.
Oh, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
But the Colts couldn't even stop Jacksonville last week. Are they going to be able to stop Dalvin Cook in this offense? Who, you look at the final score last week, they bounced back against a prevent defense in Green Bay. Maybe this team is going to start clicking. And we got to remember it's a new offensive coordinator for Minnesota. So maybe, it's going to be slow for them to start clicking again. It's hard for me to say that the Colts are going to find the way to win this, but they probably will. This one's really tough for me.
So I'm going to pick the Colts too. And the only reason I'm going to pick the Colts is because the reason why I feel like they lost last week was because Gardner Minshew played like the best football he literally could have played. At least throwing the ball, right? So, and for that reason, I feel like, you've got Phillip Rivers. He's definitely on the top end of the mid-tier quarterbacks. We're going to see what our former Wisconsin running back's going to do, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's weird to see him in blue.
Yes.
Definitely weird to see him in blue.
And number 28.
Yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm going to have my eye on this game purely because it's the Vikings too. But this one's weird for me. I don't know. I can see. The weird thing is I can see the Colts. Here's the two possibilities I see out of this game. I see the Colts winning by a touchdown or by a single score. But I see the Vikings, if they win, I see them winning by like 2 or 3 scores.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, the Vikings are either going to blow them out or the Colts are going to barely get away with this.
It's super weird. But, again, that young secondary for the Vikings, I don't know how healthy Danielle Hunter is going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know how healthy Yannick Ngakoue is. maybe Phillip Rivers finds a groove here. I don't know. It's super weird because they couldn't do it against the Colts. I don't know.
Well, sometimes Kirk Cousins likes to play really well for
True.
no reason. And against in games where he probably should be like thinking more about playing well in bigger games. So like this is the perfect occasion for to play against Phillip Rivers and show that like, look, we're in the same tier of quarterback. I'm still better than you. And like this is his time to show it.
With a line like -3 for the Colts, if I was a betting man, I would take the Colts on that -3. That's tough.
I'm not betting on this game.
I wouldn't either.
I'm not betting on this game.
I won't put actual money, but for the sake of the show.
There's so many other games this week that I'd rather put money on than that.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of, I can't believe the line is this low, but the Bills going against the Dolphins.
All right, so all my money on the Bills.
Especially only -5.5. You're probably not getting a good plus minus on this, but like, I think Josh Allen's just going to have another MVP week which is great to hear as a fantasy owner of him. I absolutely cannot wait to see what happens with this. The Bills defense going against a snake-bitten offense in the Dolphins. Devontae Parker's questionable, so even if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't even look great against the Patriots last week.
Yeah, 3 interceptions.
I'm pretty excited to watch. The Bills are just going to absolutely trample the Dolphins, I think.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen goes for 300 yards again. But he rushed for 57 yards last week. I think we'll see something pretty similar, if not more. Please. I mean, man, that dude could ball.
Give me another 30-point
so
week. He's really great. Good. And I think his schedule gets tougher as the season goes on, but I'm sticking to my take, and I will not give up on it the rest of the season. You can call me out on it if I do. I think Josh Allen's going to be in the MVP race this year.
After watching him last week, I was a little skeptical after you brought that up at first. But truly, like, the thing about these younger quarterbacks, and we saw it with Patrick Mahomes with how quickly he progressed with the Chiefs, these young guys that are smart, gifted, athletically gifted players can progress so quickly within a system once they get into a groove. That's exactly what we're seeing with Josh Allen right now. Like, he's so comfortable with his offense. And he's starting to make his own decisions on the field too. And that's where trust is starting to become big. He's still young, but he's starting to be that better, stronger quarterback, not $500 million category, but definitely get your team to the playoffs. Maybe go get yourself a ring in a couple of years.
What I like hearing out of these teams with these young quarterbacks too is building these teams around the young quarterback. We saw Patrick Mahomes. They got Tyreek Hill. They got McCole Hardman. They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And they already had Travis Kelce. They build these teams around Patrick Mahomes can throw a deep ball. So let's get a bunch of fucking fast guys that no one can cover, and we'll just throw the ball down everyone's throat. And now you have Josh Allen, who I will never forget hearing the Bills say, we're not looking for the best route runner. We're not looking for the best receiver. We're looking for quick guys, not fast, but quick, who can adjust to the ball, because we know Josh Allen's not the most accurate quarterback. He's not going to hit a receiver who's barely guarded and fit it into a tight window like Aaron Rodgers. He's going to throw a wide receiver open, and we need those wide receivers to make that adjustment. And they had that, and then they added Stephon Diggs, who I believe is that receiver too. I just absolutely – and that defense is just – oh, my God, that defense is ridiculous. I cannot wait. The Bills by 50, in my opinion. I've talked myself – like, the Bills are just going to absolutely destroy.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs is like one of the perfect receivers. Like on the short list, he's one of the perfect receivers for Josh Allen, because like you're talking about that catching window. Stephon Diggs is so good at adjusting in midair. There's very few wide receivers that are as good as he is. Like we're talking like Julio Jones category. So,
and I mean, think about the quarterbacks that Stephon Diggs has played with, like Kirk Cousins and whoever the hell the backups were.
Kirk Cousins is a very he's a bomb arm that gets it into an area that you have to go catch it. Like you got to go fight for it.
Speaking of teams that'll probably win by 50, the 49ers taking on the Jets. Good God, this is going to also be a slaughter.
Oh, the Jets are still in the NFL?
Barely. Dude, Adam Gase, I swear to freaking God. Okay, so a lot of people think I told you about the Le'Veon Bell, they put him in after the injury type of thing.
Yes.
That's still, I don't know that for sure. These are just stories that I
I know.
hear.
I've heard that from other people now.
Good. Now I'm hearing, because if you watch that Jameson Crowder long touchdown, it looks like he might have tweaked something on that too. And then I don't think he played much after that. Jameson Crowder is now questionable, doubtful for this weekend. And the reports out of camp is that, or the reports out of practice is that he hurt himself in practice.
He's out.
I think he is out. Okay, see that? I think he re-aggravated or made it worse in practice. I think he was in. Dude, I don't know if this is Adam Gase's call. I don't know if it's the train. They need better trainers or something, because holy shit, you can't just have players practicing and going back into the game when they're injured, because oh my God. But like, they're playing the 49ers. They're going to get absolutely demolished. Like, there's no question about it.
You know what would really suck? If you were a Jets and a Knicks fan. And the Islanders, they suck too. Like, there's not really like the Mets.
I mean,
the Mets
and Yankees are.
They've been decent-ish. They've been fun to watch. Not necessarily winning, but they've been fun to watch.
They have good pitchers.
They hit home runs. Like,
yeah,
that's about it.
That's about yeah.
First off, I was looking at the injury report, and I totally forgot Flacco's a Jet. That's so weird. That just doesn't make sense to me. But
I forgot about that too.
Just for the sake of, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the wrong quarterback for the 49ers, even though, like, in some ways, I think he's the right quarterback in some ways, that he's like willing to like pass off the ball and only throw the ball 20 times in a game, which a lot of quarterbacks are not willing to do.
And dump it off to the running back.
Yeah, he's like, major quarterbacks like him are not willing to not throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, but beyond that, I think he's willing to not throw the ball because he knows that maybe running the ball might be a better option most of the time.
I genuinely, wholeheartedly, this is not a joke, believe that I could start at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers and we would win against the Jets this weekend.
Oh, no. Let me take that one step further. My grandfather, who has a colostomy bag, could butt fumble 3 times like Sanchez, and they would still win by 2 touchdowns. I'm not even bringing in dementia. Dude couldn't remember the playbook. They'd still win. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't even matter. Yeah,
that's all I got to say about that game. The LA Rams going to Philly against the snake-bitten Eagles. The Philly's only favored by 1 point at home, and I'm actually even surprised at that. I think the Rams are taking this pretty easy.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the Eagles, too, because ever since the Super Bowl, it's just kind of went, woo, just really fast.
I'll say it every week. They picked the wrong quarterback.
Oh, yeah, they knew it immediately after they did it. I think it was one of those things like, man, that was a bad decision.
As soon as they traded Foles,
the day after, they're like, ooh. It's like when you break up with that one girl, like, oh, no, wait, she was the one.
No,
she was the one. Damn, now I can't get her back. That's what you get, Philly. Yeah, no, I think the Rams are starting to get something going again. Maybe they might potentially be on another future playoff run here, so we'll see.
The only reason I say that they're going to have to really, really compete, the extended playoffs is going to be their friend this year, only because they're in a division with the Niners and the Seahawks. And man, it's hard for me to watch what the Rams did to Dallas on Sunday night and look at what the Eagles did against Washington and say that, and listen, Washington has a really good defensive line, but the Rams have Aaron Donald.
The Rams have Aaron Donald.
I'm convinced in this game that they could rush Aaron Donald and drop 10 people back, and Aaron Donald would probably get 4 or 5 sacks. I'm convinced.
He's so good.
He's ridiculous.
Guys of that size. Could you imagine if him and a Bosa ever ended up on the same team?
No.
Like, I think the commissioner might have to get involved for something like that.
Dude, they have Leonard Floyd now, who was a beast in Chicago. I'm so glad he's gone. And I'm pretty sure they still have Dante Fowler, if I'm not mistaken. But like, this defense is crazy. They have Jalen Ramsey. They have like what? This team is good. And I'm forgetting the freaking guy's name now, but their running back Brown. Something, it starts with an M. I should know this. Malcolm Brown. Thank you. Malcolm Brown looked like the better running back, and I think he's going to get the majority of the load again. It looked like they had a game plan. They had a few screens for him. He got the ball on the goal line. I think he's going to be the guy again. They just extended Robert Woods to a 4-year deal for $68 million, 32 of it guaranteed. They just did that today. And they've had a lot of faith.
6 catches and 105 yards gets you in week 1.
Robert Woods is their guy this year. And even which is weird to think about when you've seen the past few seasons and Cooper Kupp dominating, but Cooper Kupp isn't reliable, I guess, especially with that ACL injury. Yeah, he isn't consistent, especially with that ACL injury he had a few years ago, even though he bounced back last year. Robert Woods has been their guy. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they extended him and they're making him their number one guy because, again, he fits the scheme. We see guys, Robert Woods is not a top 10 receiver in this league, but because we know, Devontae, we know Michael Thomas, we know Julio, Tyreek Hill. Robert Woods is the guy in this offense who is going to either get open, he's going to get drawn to get open, but he runs the routes that Sean McVay wants to do. And speaking of Sean McVay, I mean, his offensive play calling looked like 2 years ago, like their Super Bowl run.
Yes, I don't know what was going on last season.
Yeah, me either.
Maybe they were trying to tank. Like, it almost looked like it. They're just so different.
Oh, Fowler's on the Falcons now?
Well,
what? I got to look at this depth chart for the freaking...
See, that's the thing about football. There's so many players. Like NBA, it's really easy to keep up with everybody.
Usually,
the only difference is there's so many guys coming in and out, but like in the NFL, everybody stays in.
You know what it is this year? Usually I'm so good at these depth charts. You know what it is this season?
No preseason?
I didn't buy Madden this year.
Oh.
I haven't been playing Madden. And that is why that's right. That's usually why I know these depth charts so well and everything.
I was playing Madden 20 today.
Dude, it's so bad.
It's better than 21.
Probably. You're probably right. I've still not
I've played 21. It actually clunks. Like there's actual glitches. Like it clunks while you play sometimes.
I heard the glitches aren't even like, someone will glitch into a spot. Like the game will literally just freeze.
Yeah.
the frame will just freeze.
I was playing with one of my buddies and the game actually completely shut down. And it's like a fresh release game. Like it should be running just fine. So
yeah, I'm glad. But genuinely, I deleted Madden off my PlayStation the day that MLB The Show came out.
That's like I was sitting here today. I was like, MLB The Show is such a leisure game compared to like 2K where you have to sit there and stare at the screen the whole time. Like I cannot wait for the show to come out on the next gen consoles for Xbox because that's gonna make my life so much more calming.
Right. I'm just looking at all this stuff. Michael Brockers. Michael Brockers is the other guy along with Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald. Like this defense is just going to absolutely eat up that Eagles offensive line. I feel so bad for Carson Wentz this week. Yeah. Broncos against the Steelers.
Put some respect on Big Ben's name.
Good God, yeah.
He's going to come out this week and he's going to go ape shit.
The Steelers, I said it on our last show, the Steelers are going to threaten the Ravens for the division this year. I really believe that because of that defense, because of how good that defense has been playing over the past 2 seasons, and especially when they got Minkah Fitzpatrick. Since they've gotten him, they've been a top defense in the league. And now with the addition of Big Ben, they're going to have a running back committee. Like it's going to be Benny Snell and James Conner because James Conner just isn't reliable as a weekly running back. But Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, like this offense is going to be fine with Big Ben. And I mean, the Broncos could barely do anything against Tennessee. And that's not saying Tennessee's a great defense. That's why they couldn't do anything. But now you're playing an even better defense. The Steelers are going to – I think last week we were talking about how so many of the games are close. going through these, it looks like a lot of these games aren't going to be close. I think red zone's
Yeah.
going to be kind of boring towards those witching hours.
It's
for
like
sure.
they picked out week 1 on purpose.
Right.
Almost.
And then they were like, fuck, we didn't pay enough attention to week 2. Yeah, I like
you have to have a bad week at some point.
Yeah. Man, I mean, Pittsburgh's favored 7.5 with a 40.5 over under. That only gives Broncos 13 points in implied points. Like, ugh, man. I mean, they shut down Saquon. The Melvin Gordon's not going to do anything.
Yeah. This spread I got here, so 17 to like 24, like that sounds about right. I think maybe the Steelers get up into the low 30s, maybe.
Yeah.
But like they don't move quick though, because Big Ben doesn't have a fast offense. They kind of they're taking their time, which I get, because Big Ben doesn't move quickly necessarily.
True.
he's one call a moving wall. Doesn't go down very easily.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't even have anything else to say about that game. All right, this is a game I actually want to spend a little bit of time on.
Okay.
The Panthers going to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Here is what I'm going to say about this game.
Oh, wow.
The
Holy
Buccaneers
cow.
The Buccaneers are going to win this game, and their running game is going to look fantastic, and Brady is going to put up a very good stat line. But that's because he's going to be throwing underneath. Godwin's not playing. Scotty Miller is going to put up a lot of yards. I think O.J. Howard's going to get a lot, but I think Ronald Jones is going to get a lot of touches, whether it's out of the backfield or if it's just catches. The Buccaneers are going to tear apart this defense. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close. That 8.5, I might actually take the Panthers, because I think the Panthers offense is going to do a lot too. But I think the Buccaneers are going to figure something out on offense this week, only because it's the Panthers defense. And I think people are going to get way, way too overhyped about the Tampa Bay next week, because I was thinking about this on my drive home. Like, Tampa Bay, they're going to do a lot against this team. They really are. And it's only because it's this team. It's the same thing as as the Browns doing good against Cincy's defense. Like, yeah, it was great to see Baker and Nick Chubb do really good this week, but I don't see it happening most weeks against better defenses. And I think it's kind of the same thing here. Like, who do the Panthers even have? And I talked about their defense probably not being good, and I was very much proven right, more so than I thought. Yeah. The Buccaneers are going to win this game, and they're probably going to win somewhere around along the lines of like 42-38 or something like that. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I would hammer the over in this one, because I don't trust either defense. But I think the Buccaneers are going to look good because of the ground game, and Tom Brady's going to be in his element, where he's just dumping the ball off to receivers and quick slant routes. And maybe 1 or 2 deep balls to Mike Evans.
Now, you're missing a little key component there. You're talking about the run game for Tampa. I'm more worried about if Tampa can stop the Carolina run game.
If they run the ball, they need to run the ball more than they did last week.
I think they're going to come in with a game, because they know that the Tampa Bay defense isn't necessarily built to stop Christian McCaffrey.
But they might. Okay, hopefully they do that. But this is Matt Rule, who is a rookie head coach. Last week, he got down and it was a close game, and he passed way too much with Teddy Bridgewater. I think the same thing is going to happen here, unless he specifically goes into the game with, we have to stick with Christian McCaffrey. We have to keep giving him the ball, even if we're down. Because if he goes into this game with the same mindset as he did last week, it's going to be, again, shit, they went up 14-0. We just need to start passing the ball with Teddy Bridgewater, which is going to be fine, but it's not going to be as effective as mixing in that pass rush or pass and run with McCaffrey and Bridgewater. Like, they need to get that balance right, even if they're down. Like, they can't be scared of running with Christian McCaffrey.
No. And honestly, if they don't run Christian McCaffrey, they're not going to win this game. What are those eyes for?
Albert Pujols just passed Willie Mays for sole possession of 5th all-time on the home run list
Good for
with
him.
661. Good for Albert Pujols. I'm so glad he's on the Angels, who I like, and not the Cardinals, who I hate.
We don't have to see as often.
Yeah.
That's the big one. I wonder if he's ever tested positive for anything.
I doubt it. I think I would have heard about that. Trust me, Cardinals fans gives us so much shit for Ryan Braun. If Albert Pujols would have at some point, I think we would have heard about it.
True.
Yeah. Anything else on this game?
It's really going to come down to is if McCaffrey gets the ball in his hands enough and if they can stop him. Because I really liked the high score few point spread that feels pretty comfortable to me, but I like Tampa.
Let's talk about the two juggernauts of the NFL, the Washington football team against.
This is going to be like
Cardinals.
the youngest looking football game I have ever seen. Like minus Grandpa Fitzgerald.
I can't wait. I can't wait because it's this Cardinals team against a good defense, but they played a great defense last week and absolutely dominated. Like we see what a number one wide receiver does for a guy like Kyler Murray. They're gonna have issues because this defensive line is good, but I think the Cardinals are still gonna pull this out. Washington will probably steal at points. I think this is the week for Antonio Gibson because we saw the run defense for Arizona isn't great, but again, that's against San Francisco, so we don't know. But I think Antonio Gibson could have a breakout game this week. Yeah, I'm excited to watch Kyler Murray. God, 230 yards and a touchdown, and then 91 yards and a touchdown.
I would say don't forget about that almost 100 on the ground.
I mean, come on, man. And then DeAndre Hopkins with 151 in the air. Like,
what a steal! Like the biggest steal in football history.
We haven't even gotten to the Texans yet, but Jesus, that was a stupid fucking trade.
Like that has to be on an all-time list of one of the most one-sided trades ever.
Yeah.
And like beneficial
stupid.
for just one team.
Stupid.
So my thing is the Redskins have a good chance at winning this game. For a couple the Washington football team. It is late. My apologies.
No, it's fine. I've done it a few times. I heard Jay Glazer do it on Sunday. So
this Washington football team has a chance at winning this game if a couple things happen here. If Haskins can complete over half of his passes again, that's going to help them a lot. Mm-hmm. Because their defense is what's winning them games. They just have to get a couple scores on offense.
We saw them hang with the Packers last season because of that defense, and now you add a guy like Chase Young. Yeah.
And then if Gibson comes out and gets he had 36 last week. If he gets you 50, 75 yards, but if he comes out and gets you 150 and a touchdown or two, imagine you win this game. I think you win this game if he comes out and gets you a couple touchdowns.
I think the key is, like you mentioned, defense. I think the key is just containing Kyler. You can't let Kyler run for 90 yards. You just can't. It doesn't matter how many he throws for. If he runs for 90 yards, this game's over because you add in what Kenyon Drake is going to do and you add in what Chase Edmonds is even going to do behind him. It doesn't matter. Kyler could throw for 100 yards all to DeAndre Hopkins and if he still runs for 90 plus yards, they have to figure out a way to contain him. And I think a defense, I want to keep saying like a defense like this can, but we just saw what Kyler did against San Francisco, who was a little banged up, but no. That's the
49ers, man.
Exactly.
That's the defense of the NFL. That's
and you can say that they're adjusting. I don't know. Did Richard Sherman play last week, or did he get hurt last week? I think he's not. I think he's questionable this week or something.
He's been hurt for the last 2 seasons with that shoulder and And
they lost to Forrest Buckner in the middle,
yep.
but it's still the Niners defense.
Who else do you still have on that team? That is an absolute god. So this team is set. The thing about Kyler Murray exposes linebackers that aren't patient. Mm-hmm. And I think if he continues to be a nuisance, and he's so young. Kyler Murray is so young and so inexperienced in the NFL. God forbid he gets better. How are you supposed to handle that? Sorry about the sirens in the background. I live across the street from the biggest opioid addicted area in Whitewater. And it's been really rough the last couple weeks.
I'm in Milwaukee, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. That was a lot of them.
I just heard the first one, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, Kyler Murray is just so good. He really makes defenses look bad. He exposes defense that aren't patient, because when he gets out of the pocket, you have to be really careful how you handle that, because he's really good at throwing on the move at his young age, and he's also really good at getting up that field when you're trying to cover his receivers.
Yeah. Like, I think Washington, like you said, they might have a chance if they can contain Kyler, and if excuse me, and if Haskins can have a good game again, which he can. I think he's developing into a halfway decent quarterback. So we'll see how that continues to grow, especially with Ron Rivera at coach. But I think Kyler Murray has 50-plus rushing yards. I think he throws for 200 yards. Yeah. And if he does that again, I mean, they're going to win. 40 passes for, I guess, against the, yeah. He's not going to throw 40 passes this time, but he probably still will. Probably still is going to hit 200 yards. I just see Kyler being dominant again this week. The Chiefs going to LA for the Chargers debut in their new stadium, even though we've already seen the new stadium. Yeah, I'm very, very excited. That stadium's fucking nice, man. Holy shit.
Yeah. They need to get one of those big, like, Halo things at Lambeau. Could you imagine? How awesome would that be?
Right. I absolutely love that stadium. Like, yeah, it was great that what they were showing on Sunday Night Football last week. It was really cool to see the ins and outs of the stadium. That's definitely now. I mean, every baseball, football, and basketball stadium is already on my bucket list to go see all of them. But that one's top of it now. I really want to go see that.
Yeah.
As far as the game goes, I mean, the Chiefs are winning this. Tyrod Taylor, I don't. Again, I want to call for Justin Herbert, but again, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to stick with Tyrod even in this game, because now now the coaching staff can sit back and say, okay, this is Kansas City. There's a reason why we're losing this game. It's not because of Tyrod necessarily. I don't know. I don't see a game plan or a situation where the Chargers team comes out and win, because if the Chiefs are running the ball well, then they're going to win. If they're throwing the ball well, they're going to win. If they're doing both halfway decent, they're going to win. They would have to be shit at running and shit at passing, which is not going to happen in order for the Chargers to win. That's the only way I see this happening, because of what the Chargers saw the Bengals last week, and they could barely put up 19 points. So I don't see any way that the Chargers can even pull this out.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes probably gonna go for almost 300. I mean,
at least.
Yeah.
Although I could see him getting like 3 quick touchdowns in the first quarter, and then them running the ball, and he even sits the second half or something like that. Like, I could see him at least, even if I don't think he's gonna throw 32 passes. I don't think he's gonna throw that much, because they're gonna have the lead. This is the kind of game I want to see, because I'm a Clyde Edwards-Helaire fantasy owner. Like, I'm ecstatic to watch what he can do with a fourth quarter lead.
I was gonna say, it's definitely the week you put him in.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I mean, if I spent my 8th overall pick to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's starting every week.
Well, I mean, if you're on Patrick Mahomes' team, probably wants you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, besides Nicole, because Nicole will catch one ball for 90 yards and a touchdown every 3 weeks or so.
Yeah,
but
consistency is key.
Yeah, again, that'll be a fun game to watch as far as the Chargers or the Chiefs scoring touchdowns.
Just absolutely destroying them. Yeah.
Texans Ravens. This one should be closer if only Houston had a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I was about to say Houston's missing this little thing called an offense. It's
ridiculous. But yeah, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, not that Houston, let's just completely disregard they don't have an offense. I don't even think their defense can handle Lamar Jackson. So, don't even worry about their offense not being there. Lamar Jackson is going to completely torch them. If it's not going to be with his feet, it's going to be with his arm, because his arm is getting better now. So, yeah, last week he hit 3 touchdowns, 20 for 25, 275 yards.
The Lakers are at 103 points at the end of the third quarter. I just want to.
It doesn't surprise me. They had like 40 points in the first quarter.
I'm telling you, 5 games. I'm locking that in. As much as I love the Nuggets,
Okay, so
I'm
the
locking
Nuggets
in
win
5
in
games.
5 games. What's the score?
It's 103 to 79.
Oh. Okay. Now remember, the Nuggets don't start playing until game 3.
We'll do it. How about this? We'll do a dollar bet on this game.
All right.
I'll take
on the series.
Yeah. So
I'm locking in. A little too late.
I'm locking in five games for the Lakers.
I got to go with 7 with my Nugs.
All right. Anything other than that, null and void. Those are the 2. Okay.
Deal.
Anyway, Ravens Texans. Keep going.
Yeah, they can't handle Lamar Jackson. Come on. No. They don't got a chance. Like, I think this might even be worse than the Chiefs-Chargers game.
Ooh.
This might – yeah, I'm serious. I really think so because I don't think Houston's going to be able to score.
I disagree. I mean, their offense didn't look bad, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, the Chargers, again, against the Bengals only put up 19 points. This Texans team against the Chiefs, maybe at a lot of garbage time, but opening night, they put up points against the Chiefs. And again, they're missing their number 1 receiver, but as long as Will Fuller's healthy, which I think he should still be for a few more weeks, you still got Randall Cobb who's fitting into that scheme, and they know how to use him. They drew up that screenplay. I still don't really trust the defense, like you said, especially against this offense. But I think the offense itself, David Johnson, they seem to they like him. They obviously like him.
They used him.
Yeah, and I think that's going to continue, especially because Duke Johnson got injured last week. So I think David's going to get a lot more carries and a lot more opportunities. So they're going to score points. But if I really had to make a prediction on points, it's going to be like fucking 45 to like 20 if I really had to make a prediction.
Yeah, ESPN's got 28 to 21. I like Lamar's getting at least in the mid 30s on that.
28 to 21.
Yeah, no, I think they're on something.
Yeah,
and no, there's no way.
The fact that the Ravens are 7-point favorites as a road team, I don't know I don't know how much heft home advantage has this year. Home field advantage has because of not every stadium has fans. Texans indoor, isn't it? They might not have stadium or fans. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Texans isn't indoor outdoor. They have a retractable.
Okay, so maybe they do. I still don't know what the criteria is. I think it's state to state more than anything.
It's state by state. Yeah.
Yeah, because we saw some stadiums have some, but some don't. Even though some are indoor and some I don't know. But yeah, the Ravens are going to absolutely blow this out of the water. Sunday Night Football. The Patriots and Cam Newton going to Seattle to take on Russell Wilson and the Seahawks.
So you think Seattle's going to win?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. But I think Cam Newton's going to put on a show.
I think Cam Newton's going to have a great week. And I think this game's going to be – I like the line at 3.5 because I do think this game is going to be close because – again, it's Matt Ryan in that Falcons offense. Like, they've been good for a very long time. But, I mean, this Patriots, obviously, they know what they want to do with Cam Newton, and they're going to do it again against the Seahawks team. But Jamal Adams against the run, like, they can honestly have just Jamal be like a roaming kind of safety to keep his eye on Cam. I'm putting my money on Jamal Adams on a lot of those plays. So, I do like the Patriots to still score a decent amount, maybe 20 points, but the Seahawks are going to put up a lot of points, I think, on this defense. And I mean, even especially if Russell plays like he did last week, but I think it'll be close. 28 to 24, maybe I could say.
All right, so you're pretty close to what ESPN's got. They've got 24-20. And I think I might like Seattle by a little bit more. Maybe 7, but like that's about it. I think it is going to be a pretty close game. I kind of like the idea of Cam Newton throwing to Julian Edelman. It looked pretty good. And
although he missed him a few times and Edelman dropped a few passes.
Yeah, so. And it's week 1. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're taking a former MVP quarterback and putting him in with an MVP quarterback. We have to remember that Cam Newton is still Cam Newton. He might not be physically what he used to be, but mentally, if not the same, he's better now. And he
Well,
has Bill
yeah,
Belichick.
exactly. You got to think that Belichick and McDaniels are putting the right thing in Cam's head that he's going to build that confidence. Like it's only going to get better.
It's like when you're playing Ultimate Team and you get like the high level coach and it like boosts up the stats and all your players. That's a real thing that actually exists in real life.
Why do you think people who play for Adam Gase suck?
Like good coaches make really good players, especially if their scheme fits. So yeah.
Off topic, but where are you seeing those projected scores?
I've got the app.
Okay, maybe it's just on the app then, because I'm on my laptop. Maybe I'll switch over.
Pick center.
That's what I figured. They're not showing me scores on mine. I was trying to do math in my head, and we're not trying to do that on this podcast.
Nah, no, that's not what this podcast is about.
Monday Night Football to round everything off. The Saints going to Vegas, the debut of the Vegas Stadium. I'm very excited to see the same thing that we saw for LA on Sunday night.
Man, it's really going to suck to see them lose in their first game there, isn't it?
They're going to get absolutely murdered. I mean, no, I can't even the Raiders look good, but that was against the Carolina defense. And this Saints defense is something else. We saw them shut down the Buccaneers offense. We saw them, their offense, even without Michael Thomas, because I think I've heard so many conflicting reports on Michael Thomas. Even if he plays, he's not 100% healthy.
And I don't think you'll play him.
I don't think you should.
Yeah, week 2 against the Raiders.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lose the game, you lose the game, right?
Michael Thomas is also the kind of guy who, and we've heard this out of literally in practice the other day. He was like, "Yeah, I feel fine," but they also think that he could miss weeks of football. So obviously, he's probably not feeling. I don't know. I wouldn't play him. I think you're right on that. And
I think he's like a Giannis type of guy that's like, "Oh, I'll play. I'm gonna play. I'm here."
But you don't. It's weird to say this because he's the best receiver in football, but you don't really need him in this game because you have guys like Emmanuel Sanders and you have, I don't even know who their other receiver is, but you have Alvin Kamara, you have Latavius Murray, you have Jared Cook, and this offense is going to be fine. Taysom Hill, I didn't even bring up Taysom. Taysom Hill is going to be, I think he's going to play a huge role.
Taysom Hill looks fantastic last week.
As he has for the past 17, 18
Talk
games
about
now.
There's no other team that could use Taysom Hill like the Saints use him.
Oh yeah. I
absolutely. Maybe the Patriots might use him like that, but that's about it.
As an avid fantasy football guy, Taysom Hill, I fucking hate the guy because he takes away points from Drew Brees. He takes away points from a lot of running backs on the goal line and stuff like that. But as just a football fan, he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
The passes that he throws, oh my God, he's a good quarterback. Crazy. It's crazy. And I don't know if he can do that on a consistent basis, but he doesn't need to, especially right now. And he's a good wide receiver. He's probably, honestly, he might be the number 4 or 3 number 3 or 4 wide receiver on that team. He's the number 2 quarterback. He's the number 3 running back, and he's the number 1 special teams guy. And maybe number 2, their return guy is really good. But holy shit, he's a hell of a player, and he's going to play a big role if Michael Thomas isn't there. And I just don't think – I think Josh Jacobs can have a big game on the ground, but I don't see the Raiders putting up enough points against the Saints defense to keep up with Drew Brees.
Yeah, and you talk about Taysom Hill taking away fantasy points from Drew Brees on the goal line, but that might be taking away fantasy points, but that's adding years to Drew Brees' career.
Oh,
so
God,
take that as you will. Taysom Hill is probably the reason why Drew Brees is still playing football. And he will probably be the reason why Drew Brees might continue to play next season because Taysom Hill goes in there and he does the goal line dives and takes those hits. I can't disagree with you at all. Drew Brees is just way too good to not look good against this Raiders team that has a few question marks in some spots. So I like the Saints. Pick centers only got them 5.5 points. I like them probably a little bit more than that.
Yeah. I think they win
Probably
by 10 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think 10's safe bet on that one.
Yeah. That's all I got on that game.
There's gonna be some pretty interesting football this week. There's gonna be some games that are gonna be definite like snoozers, but there's definitely gonna be some big old numbers this week.
Yeah,
We might see a 400-yard week from somebody this week.
There's gonna be lopsided games, and there's gonna be big, and I think it's gonna come to the running situation because, like I said, in Kansas City, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is gonna have a big week. I think J.K. Dobbins or Mark Ingram, whoever gets the load in Baltimore, they're gonna have a big week. Derrick Henry, obviously, I think is gonna have a big week. I could see Aaron Jones for the Packers having a big week.
So then, who I was gonna say, who's gonna be your one key player to watch?
That is I'm kind of scrolling through here. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if I had to say right now, if he can perform late game, and ice that game for them, I think that's going to be big. I would like to see one of the Bills running backs step up. Let's go by position. I think running back, I think it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think quarterback wise, it's Josh Allen. I think he's going to put up big numbers this week. Wide receiver wise, you got to look at one of those close games. Calvin Ridley, I think with a lot of attention on Julio Jones, I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. You could look at Michael Gallup or Amari Cooper in that game too. And I think obviously Julio's going to have a big game, but I think Calvin Ridley's going to have another big game. And defensive-wise, I mean, the Titans are probably going to have a good week. The Bills are going to have a good week defensively. The 49ers, obviously. The Steelers, look for them to be big. I'm not as excited for week one, but that's because it's week one with no preseason.
Well, those games looked really good too. They're really good matchups.
Mm-hmm. But there are a few really good games and a few potential upsets that are going to happen, and I'm really, really excited to watch those close games.
So pick your one upset for the week.
I think it's the Rams.
Okay.
I really, even though they're not what was the one that I called? Oh no, the Falcons was my Falcons was my upset.
Which is that how much of an upset is it though?
Dallas is favored by 4 at home, and it's the highest.
Upset enough.
Yeah, it's high. It's upset only because
they're in Dallas, right?
Yeah, they're in Dallas. I'll call that an upset.
Yeah. So I'd pick the Raiders for this, even though they're at home.
Ooh.
Now here's the reason I picked the Raiders. There might be a little something else they're packing in with their first game in their new stadium.
Okay.
Because that really does mean something. Most recently, you saw it with Golden State when they moved into to San Francisco and Chase Center, and they just started going nuts. So when you get hyped when you're playing a sport, especially football, that's a very emotional hype sport.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that can definitely be a factor in winning a singular game.
The Giants I had my eye on too. If we really wanted to go, if you're not satisfied with either of those and you wanted an upset out of me, I would pick, what was the one I was just looking at? Where'd it go? Panthers. Just because I'm on what's the opposite of the hype train for the Buccaneers?
Yeah.
So the 8.5 point favorites at home, the Panthers, there's a chance for an upset. If they really put Christian McCaffrey as a headliner in the offense, there's a chance for that he runs all over them and then they just can't get things going. But who knows, without Chris Godwin there, you have to go deep. And Scotty Miller is the number 2 then. There's chance. I know I've talked on both ends on the Buccaneers. That's basically how I feel with them this year. I was going to bring something. Oh, I wanted to look at last week's to see how we kind of did with what we were saying last week.
What I will say is we should be keeping an eye on Dwayne Haskins this week because they're not going to win. But he looked really, really good last week. And if he can continue to keep this up, we might see Washington actually win some more games than we were expecting this year.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just looking at games. I think we still probably called the chart. We called Chargers or Bengals last week.
We wanted to call Bengals because of Joe Burrow, but I think we called Chargers.
I think so. Okay, I'm just looking through. So we called Packers. That was that one was pretty obvious. We did, obviously, I don't think anyone called Jaguars over Colts.
No.
Seahawks we called. Bills we called over the Jets. The Bears, I don't think
neither of us. No, because I was just shitting on. I definitely didn't pick the Bears.
I think we went.
I almost will never pick the Bears unless they're playing the Jets.
I think we picked the Patriots. We definitely didn't pick the Washington football team over the Eagles.
No.
I'm pretty sure I went Panthers over Raiders, so I got that one wrong. Ravens over Browns, we got Chargers, we got Saints, I got over Buccaneers. Cardinals over Niners, we didn't get. I did call that my almost upset, so I will kind of count that, I guess. Rams, Cowboys, I don't remember what we said for that. But Steelers,
I think
we
that,
definitely got.
yeah, I mean, probably shitting on Mike McCarthy a bunch.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think we did say if Sean McVay can get his shit together, and if Mike McCarthy is Mike McCarthy, then the Rams will. I don't know, remember what we said.
That's probably, that sounds something we would say.
There were a lot of weird games last week, so
Yeah.
I think we need to tighten up a little bit, but I feel confident about our picks this week.
Yeah, I learned a lot from last week. There's a couple teams I'm much more willing to pick now in some upsets, like Washington. A couple more games later this season, I'll be much more likely to pick them. There's some teams that I will be likely to pick to be upset. And, for example, the 49ers. I think they're going to be losing a couple more games this season that they shouldn't lose, and they're going to be a disappointment. And that's good because they need to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not a good quarterback.
They got him for a few seasons. I think they're going to stick with him as long as they win. As long as they make the playoffs every year, I think he's going to, which they will. I think he's going to stay.
Well, the first year they don't make the playoffs with him, I think they start asking questions, because then it's where's our production get better at, and it's obvious where your production gets better at on that team. The first place they're going to upgrade is their quarterback, because he just doesn't do anything.
Before we get out of here, I do want to plug, if you give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, I will read it out on here. I'll give you a shout out and thank you for listening and rating, because that is how we will grow on iTunes. And I do want this podcast to grow. I'm really happy with what we do. So if you could be so kind, if you're listening on iTunes, or if you just have, I listen on Spotify and I have, a iPhone, but if you could just go on iTunes and give us a review, that'd be very swell. I'll read it out. I'll give you a shout out if you want to hear us read your name out. And you can say mean things as long as you give us a 5-star review. You can say whatever mean thing you want.
Yeah. In fact, I think it'd almost be funnier if you put in a mean thing, like a sarcastically mean thing with like a 5-star review.
And I'll start looking at that at the beginning of each podcast. Other than that, follow us on Twitter at FRKO Podcast. Follow Hanson at Hanson McElvain. Follow me at Howard J. Dingers.
Turn on your links. Twitter notifications. NBA off season's coming up. It's about to get fucking wild. 2 months, which is normally like 4.5. So, wait. Oh my God, it's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be great. So yeah, definitely follow us on all the links are in the description below for all of that. Check out the new podcast. One more last one every Wednesday. Excuse me. We have new episode every Wednesday. Really funny podcast. I definitely should check it out. And rate that one on iTunes too, whatever. Merch on Redbubble, all those links in the description below. Thank you all for listening. And we will see you Sunday night. We should probably record on Sunday night, and then I'll put it up as soon as we can. So look at that late Sunday night, Monday morning for our reactions to week 2 of the NFL week. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you on Sunday.